Hey everyone, and thank you for joining Zweig Group Media and the Zweig Letter exclusive interview series. With almost 25 years of continuous coverage of the design industry, the Zweig Letter is a constant in an ever-changing marketplace. We are bringing you some of the best and brightest minds that our industry has to offer. Today, I am pleased to welcome Mr. Will Swearingen, Director of Surveys and Books here at Zweig Group. Will, it's great to have you join us. How are you doing today?
Great. It's good to be here, Randy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, not a problem, not a problem. So, a lot of times we bring in a lot of big names from outside of the company itself, and then from time to time I have accosted some of my colleagues to come on board and join us for one of these interviews. I've had Jamie Claire talk about M&A, and at some point in time I'm going to get Mark and Chad and some others on here. But, I just thought it would be really appropriate to bring you on and kind of talk about what's happening in the world of surveys and books. Not so much to highlight what we're doing, but I think more so to highlight the information that you are getting from the research and from the work that we're doing in your section of the company. And so I really want to just kind of talk with you today, and I wanted you to kind of share with the audience a little bit about what you're doing there in the survey and books group, and then also talk about some of the things that you've been learning recently about our industry, and what are some of the unique findings in the design industry as of late. So, Will, welcome again, and just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're currently doing right now in surveys and books.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Randy. Zweig surveys have been around for almost 30 years or over 30 years. So the product itself is tried and tested. The industry has leaned on it and contributed to it for over 30 years. So the information that the Zweig Group surveys are gathering has been tried and tested by the industry for decades. So each year we attempt to kind of come in and take a look at what the content is, and as the market shifts or as trends change, obviously Obamacare was a big adjustment for firms. So when anything like that comes in, we try to go back and update the surveys to get the most relevant info that we can from our clients and from our contributors to the surveys.
Okay. So, you speak of Obamacare, and I know that had a definite impact on small and medium-sized businesses as well as large businesses for sure. But, I know that we do a wealth of different surveys, and we find out a lot of different information. So you want to kind of give me just a quick rundown. If I was new to Zweig, why would I even care about the surveys that you guys are doing?
Absolutely. The surveys touch on a lot of different topics, ranging from financial performance to recruiting and retention, incentive compensation, our policies, procedures, and benefits, project management. Basically, each survey that we offer attempts to look at a different sector of an AEP firm and attempt to inform a leader in that sector, whether it's an HR director, whether it's the CEO, or whether it's a small firm and it's a CEO, HR director, and project manager all in one. Our surveys are intended to really help firm leaders take a look at their business, align their resources, and align their people in a way that they can be more efficient about running their businesses. So that's kind of the idea. And as I get further into my tenure here with Zweig Group, and I touch base with more and more clients, I realize just exactly how critical a lot of this information is to firm leaders. There's metrics that people track year over year to make sure that they're on trend or up to par with where they were last year and with where the industry is moving today. So, that's what's really important to me, is that this research helps people do business better.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like, in your mind, obviously there's a lot of benchmarking that goes on. There are a lot of efforts to kind of make sure that 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 with the information that we are gaining through our surveys and through some of the books that we are preparing, that we're being able to give firms more information to help them run their businesses more efficiently, and also just as a check-in to make sure that everything is on par and moving forward.
Absolutely. So we just completed the 2016 Financial Performance Survey, which is one of our biggest surveys, and I think one of the most important for the industry as a whole.
Okay.
And we had a lot of interesting findings, and as a lot of people would expect, the industry is hot right now. People are making money, and it's just a matter of whether they're collecting their profits and making themselves more profitable through investing back in their firm, or if they're pulling that money out of the firm to do other things, whether it's M&A or pay themselves to get a new beach house. Some of that stuff is relevant and evident in some of the findings in this survey. But a couple of things that we found that were really interesting was return on assets were up over a 4-year period.
Okay.
Interest-bearing debt to EBITDA was up, which is indicative of people taking advantage of low interest rates. It looks like people are financing different parts of their firm, which I think is pretty interesting with these record low interest rates that we have. People are locking those in. We also found a lot of interesting stuff regarding bonuses and pre-tax, pre-bonus profits, and all those were up this year. And so it really paints a picture of an industry that's thriving at the moment, coming out of, obviously the recession 4 or 5 years ago, or actually longer than that. Really.
Right. Yeah.
Time flies.
It does. It does.
But firms have come out and are really hot right now. So I think it's important that even though times are good right now, that people keep their finger on the pulse of their firm through understanding these financial metrics. Because you never know when the next downturn is going to happen, and you want to be in a position to where you have ample cash on hand, and that your cash flows can cover the cost of your business.
Yeah, well, and that's certainly is a great point, and I think it's important for people to understand the analytics of things, especially when it comes to information and parsing that. In the recruiting space, which is the area that it's my purview, we talk about key performance indicators when it comes to cost per hire and knowing how long it takes for you to identify and find a candidate and all that good stuff. And with that information, you can run your business more efficiently, whatever it is, whether it's on the talent acquisition side, whether it's on the financial performance side. Information really is power. And I'm kind of reminded of, there were a couple of movies that came out recently, as you mentioned, the financial meltdown that we had in 2008. And, one of those movies featured a couple of guys that had presaged or had identified the collapse of the mortgage industry. And part of the story, the reason why they were able to corroborate their findings was that they basically just did research. They just did their homework. They ultimately went to some of the hotbed areas that had the quickest meltdown when it came to mortgages, where people like in Florida were getting 5 and 6 mortgages. And, in the movie, they show a stripper that, had like 5 mortgages on 6 different properties. And, you kind of laugh about it, but that was at that point, that was the aha moment for them. And they had collected enough data to corroborate their findings and make sense of where they thought that market was going. And true indeed, I don't know that anyone wants to be remembered for being the guy that predicted the financial meltdown or the mortgage crisis. But, a lot of times the argument that you'll hear, whether it's from Wall Street or elsewhere, is that we missed all of the markers that were there. We ignored them. And I think especially in the design industry, while it's not a direct correlation, the simple idea is that there are always going to be markers of where the industry is headed. And usually that comes with certain bits of data and information that, if gleaned properly, can really tell a business owner how to prepare for whether there's going to be sunshine in the future or whether there's going to be stormy days. And I think it's important for individuals, whether they're looking at our surveys or any for that matter, to get good data and be able to understand where the market is headed.
It's interesting that you pointed out The Big Short. It's a great movie. But
thank you for remembering the name. The name was escaping me, but I saw the movie and I can replay that whole scene in my head, and it was amazing. And his face was priceless when that stripper told him that, he thought she only owned one property, and she was like, "Oh, I own like 6 properties," and he was like, 6, and it was just amazing. So
well, and that's exactly it. Is those data points are very telling of where things are. And with Zweig Group's 30-year plus history and the strong, rich brand that we do have, we have some of the top AE firms contributing to our research. So the data points that we are collecting are very relevant and very telling of some of the best and highest performing firms. So I do think that that's a neat indicator that sort of sets us apart, is that the data that we're collecting is from the top firms. So we don't want it to skew it one way or the other, but we have contributors from 3-person firms all the way up to 3,000-person firms. So the data points definitely paint the picture, and right now the industry looks good. So.
Well, that's good to hear. So given the latitude of the different types of firms that we get information from, do you ever get requests, or is there a way for a firm to get some specialized information based on a specific data set of material for an area?
Yeah. Well, I get calls pretty much every day from firm leaders, CFOs, CEOs that are calling in and have a question or two about a particular data point. And there's always a lot more of information behind the data sets than the actual data sets that are presented. We give the most comprehensive view that we can, but there's obviously things behind the data that we can't bring forward. And I obviously really want to help people whenever they have those questions to dig in. So I had a question the other day about a particular data point, and went back in, looked at the data, and looked at exactly what firms contributed to that particular data point so that I could help one of our top clients take a look and see how they were actually performing against some of their peers. So there's always opportunities to go in and take a look at the numbers and look at them from a different angle. And that's something that I pride myself on, is trying to be able to give people the best customer service that I can, because I understand these numbers can get confusing. It's just a vast quantity of percentages and various data points on a chart. And sometimes if people can't make sense of the numbers, by all means, reach out, and I'll try to, me or one of my colleagues will take a look and try to figure out a way to make sense of that data point.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, we will definitely put your email in the show notes, and obviously on the video, we'll try to put something on the lower third of the screen just with your information on there, so people know how to reach you here at Zweig Group, and I think that will certainly be helpful. So we are almost 2/3 of the way through 2016. What would you say are some of the most interesting findings to date this year about the design industry through all of the different surveys that we've done? Obviously, we do salary surveys. Like you said, you gave a list of the different surveys that we do. But what are some of the biggest aha moments that you've had this year, specifically in 2016?
There's been a lot. It's a lot of eye-opening moments, but I'd have to say that the recent financial performance survey has definitely provided me with some aha moments. Just looking at, the profitability measures that firms can use to see where they can allocate resources to really boost not only their bottom line, but to boost their employees' morale by redistributing profits is a pretty interesting thing. And so in the recent financial performance survey, we found that S Corps outperformed C Corps on a variety of profitability measures. But as a percentage of pre-tax, pre-bonus profits, C Corps actually paid out twice as much in profit distributions as the S Corps. So, you can take what you want from that data point there, but I found it very interesting that as they outpaced C Corps on all profitability measures that we have in this particular survey, on the flip side, C Corps actually paid out almost twice as much as a percentage of that pre-tax, pre-bonus profit through distributions. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
And also found that the bonus structure this year, or actually last year in the fiscal year 2015, that the bonuses per employee skyrocketed, which just indicates how profitable firms' operations are right now.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of data points, and going back to, you sort of alluded to recruiting and retention, and just exactly how costly it is whenever there's turnover in a firm. The financial performance survey this year indicates that turnover is down year over year. For the last 3 years, it's been a declining trend, which is really good for firms, because recruiting and retention is key.
Yeah.
It's key to the success of a firm, especially when you look at how expensive it is to go out and find a quality candidate.
Absolutely.
I think oftentimes people don't realize, how much they might have to spend, and maybe they do have that money available to go out, perhaps out of state, out of town, to find that top talent. But they may settle for somebody in town. But when you look at the 5-year plan, maybe they should have spent that extra $5,000 or $10,000 to go out and do some heavy recruiting and find the actual piece that the firm needed. So, when you look at the whole picture and you see where the resources are inside of a firm and exactly what the plan of that firm is, you can start to understand how to shift around those financial and personnel resources to truly hit your goals in that plan.
Okay. Yeah, no, and you're kind of speaking my language. You're right. I mean, a lot of firms, the retention levels are much higher right now, and a lot of firms are able to keep good people, which certainly is great. Obviously, for us, as recruiters, sometimes it just means that maybe we're not getting as many normal jobs as we would, because firms are having a much better time keeping great talent. And so I'm excited about that. But it's always going to create new opportunities. And I think specifically, like you said, with regard to recruitment and retention, just firms just knowing their numbers and understanding the ebbs and flows of how talent acquisition goes will certainly allow them to prepare and plan for the future and do it in a way that makes sense, both from an economic standpoint as well as from a functional standpoint in terms of the growth of the company, whether they're opening up new offices or whether they're expanding within their current setting. And all of that is done through the basis of operating from a good data point of information, as opposed to, not having the right information, which is important. And I think in our industry, it seems like, if you make a bad decision, a lot of times the precursor to that bad decision was you having bad information.
Yeah, you don't want to operate blindly. Just having money in the bank isn't sufficient, and knowing that you made more money this week than you paid out this week, that's great information. But there's other pieces of that puzzle that can really help paint a better picture of exactly what your situation is.
Yeah. No, that makes perfect sense. So what do you guys have coming down the road? I mean, we're almost towards the end of the year, and I would imagine you're trying to get things in order now for the next year's salary survey, and that's a big deal. I know there's some new projects underway within surveys and books with regard to being able to maybe get our information out even faster than it is currently. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that? Maybe give us a sneak preview as to what we can expect from your group?
Sure. Yeah, pretty excited about 2017. Our company touches on so many different aspects of the AEP industry, from recruiting to M&A to valuation to ownership transition. We're in the C-suite of so many different companies, and we have consultants all over the U.S. every day. So we have an incredible reach, and I think that one thing that we need to be focusing on in 2017 is coalescing a lot of that information. And I think that the Surveys and Books Group is a good place to do that and to bring all that data together. So, we'll definitely be taking some different approaches to data collection. Our salary surveys, I think, are going to be very robust in 2017. We're going to be collecting more data, I think, than we have in quite some time. But for the rest of 2016, we've got our fee and billing survey that's going to be coming out. That's slowly wrapping up at the moment. Our M&A book will be coming out. And we're just putting the final touches on our 2017 calendar so that we can give people, that blueprint of what the year looks like, so that they can be mindful of when they need to get their participation in for a particular survey. So,
okay. Now, speaking of this, I know there may be some people out there listening to this saying, man, this sounds great. I would love to just get this data on a regular basis. Is there a subscription available for someone that would like to just get on a regular calendar of, as the information is hot off the presses, that you're disseminating that to them?
We are working on a subscription-based model, but we currently work with firms all over that want to have the full suite. So there's definitely opportunities available. We do bundles. We do a salary bundle. We do a people's bundle, which encompasses our incentive compensation, our recruiting and retention, and policies, procedures, and benefits. So there are specific packages that we do have that are highly discounted that people can get.
Okay. All right. Well, very cool. Very cool. Well, man, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule. Every time I walk into your office, you've got like a stack of books that's high in there, and
gotta have your head down.
You're constantly working on things. So I think that's a good thing, and it's so great, having you as a colleague here. So I appreciate you taking some time just to kind of share some basic information about what you guys are doing in surveys and books. So I want to thank you for that. Listen, as a reminder, all Zweig Group Media programs like this one are available in both podcast and video format, free for download on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, just to name a few places. We'd like to thank you for watching this in video or listening to the podcast by offering you a free copy of the Zweig Letter. Just visit info.zweiggroup.com/free TZL. A link to all of this information, including Will's contact information, will be in our show notes. And we would love it if you would share this link with a friend. I'm Randy Wilburn, and you've been listening to Zweig Group Media, part of Zweig Group. Remember, we exist to make you more successful. Bye for now.